left a message and no return phone call was made. At that point, I reached out to a city employee who has always helped me, Rick Charnoff. He, along with his team member Becky, have always been there for me when I reach out and should be recognized. Great public servants. Rick put a monitor on Ocean Avenue to assess traffic, excuse me. This street has a crosswalk for students at Glen Middle School, which is between my home and the Kelso's home. To slow traffic down, may I suggest eliminating the stop signs and introducing speed humps in their place? This is a suggestion. Other issues, commercial heavy traffic, Lang Building Supply, and their vendors often use Ocean Avenue as a way of getting to and from. Ocean is a residential street. It's not like Prince. Prince is made for heavy, and Lang's trucks are getting bigger and bigger. And the thing is, they're getting faster and faster. And I've seen a couple of them jump the stop signs. So again, here we got that same problem. Finally, afternoon school traffic at 3:30, our neighborhood is full of parents picking up kids, parking on the grass, and basically owning our neighborhood. Once they're done, they speed away like it's a speedway. And that's basically what I had to say. I thank you for listening.
Thank you so much.
Brian and Elise Kelso.
So y'all having fun? We're following up on Ed's thoughts as well, and just a little color on that intersection. I realize there's a lot of intersections in Brunswick, but a couple of years ago, the city did put in a pathway for the middle school on that intersection. And so we do have, obviously in school, in mornings and afternoons, a lot of kid traffic where speeding is a concern. And then you also have it in summer because it is, kids use it as biking and walking. So it's a concern year round. And I think a thought would be at least to consider a speed hump, if it's possible, in front of that crosswalk. And it may not interfere with those stop signs. But we, as Ed, we have also witnessed and heard cars just flying through that stretch of the street. So that's our ask, is taking a deeper look at what may be possible there specifically. So thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Arnold Adcott.
Good make it.
Thank you.
Mayor, that completes the public comment section.
Wonderful. We will ensure that we have conversations not only with our safety officials about that area, but also have internal conversations with staff and come out and take a look at the area to see what would make the most sense in its entirety. So you'll be hearing from us soon.
Your attention, a little attention and observation. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. With that, we'll move on to recognitions, presentations, and awards. Proclamation presentation to Leah King. I'm going to mess this name up. Badina, there we go. And Heather Riviera with Keep Golden Owls Beautiful. Where are they? All right. If you guys can come to the front, please. You guys could tell us just a little bit, so for those in the public who are online can know a little bit about what Keep Golden Owls Beautiful does and what you guys do here in the community.
So sure, Keep Golden Isles Beautiful has been serving the citizens of the Golden Isles, Glenn County, the city of Brunswick since 1979. We're an educational nonprofit organization, and we concentrate on litter prevention, waste reduction and recycling, community greening, water resource awareness, and education. We are volunteer driven with just a 2-person paid staff. We rely heavily on partnerships, on volunteers, and on our local governments, whom we are grateful to partner with to make great things happen in our community.
Thank you so much. Before I read the proclamation, I know several commissioners have worked with you also. If anyone would like to say anything about Keep Golden House Beautiful and their incredible work, before I read the proclamation, I want to open it up to you guys.
I'll just say, thank you for all that you do, for your willingness to always serve this community, not just the city, the entirety of the community. You're not just talking about it, but you are actually walking the walk and demonstrating the actions. And I've always witnessed that you have put your love for the entirety above anything else. And so I am most appreciative of all that you continue to do and the consistency in which you continue to do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will echo what Commissioner Harris said. Just thank you so much for all that you do and your partnerships that you do as well with the kids in the school system, teaching them about litter and recycling and the importance of keeping the environment clean.
I will say I've had the opportunity to work with Lee and Heather on multiple cleanup occasions, and it's always a great experience. And I think they're always looking for more volunteers. And so if any members of the community have that urge to help make this a better place, I encourage you to reach out to them and their team to help volunteer.
I just want to say thank you, echoing everything everybody else have said. But I just want to say, I think about one particular volunteer, and I'm pretty sure you know who she is. The special love that you showed her, appreciation, and because she does an exceptional job. But mostly importantly, thank you for keeping us beautiful.
We're all in it together. So it's definitely a group effort, which, if I might add, is just the best thing about our job is that we get to bring people together to make great things happen. And any age, any ability, any walk of life can come join us in our difference-making efforts.
Thank you so much. And with that, we'll read the proclamation. Whereas Brunswick's natural beauty is a treasured resource for residents and visitors contributing to our cultural, environmental, and economic vitality. And whereas since 1979, Keep Golden House Beautiful has been a leader in keeping Brunswick green, clean, and beautiful by contributing over 9,000 volunteer hours annually. And whereas Keep Golden House Beautiful relies on the support of the community and public-private partnerships to provide services, educational programming, and activities to Brunswick, fulfilling nearly 11,000 volunteer opportunities in 2024 alone. And whereas it is no surprise, for 11 consecutive years since 2014, Keep Golden House Beautiful has received the Keep Georgia Beautiful's Governor's Circle Award and Keep America Beautiful's President's Circle Recognition Award for their outstanding achievements in community beautification and sustainability. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Cosby H. Johnson, as the mayor of the city of Brunswick, along with my fellow commissioners, do hereby recognize the impactful services offered by Keep Golden House Beautiful for the past 46 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yeah.
Guys ready?
Thank you. Thank you.
Next one is a proclamation recognizing June 9th through the 13th as Municipal Court Clerks Week. Whereas the municipal court clerks. Okay, continue. My bad. They had no name on here. So thank y'all for being with us. How you all doing? Good, good, good. We're going to read the proclamation and then grab a picture with you all, but also tell you thank you for your service. We know that there are a lot of jobs that help our city continue to run, and a lot of them go unseen, but there are people like you who ensure that we can continue to process cases, continue to keep the orderly manner by which the city runs. So we thank you for your continued commitment to our city.
Thank you.
Whereas the municipal court clerks in Brunswick, Georgia play a vital role in their fair and efficient administration of justice within our city. And whereas these dedicated professionals manage complex court proceedings, ensure proper record keeping, and provide essential services to our community. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize and express our gratitude for their hard work and commitment. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Cosby H. Johnson, as the mayor of the city of Brunswick, along with my fellow commissioners, do hereby proclaim June 9th through the 13th, 2025, as Municipal Court Clerks Week in the city of Brunswick, encouraging residents and businesses to join in this week of recognition and appreciation for our municipal court clerks' dedication and service. Thank you all.
Yeah, the mayor has to get in the picture. Hold on. That's for them. This is the professional one that gets on the.
The last one, we will call up Ms. Taylor Ritz with a presentation regarding Glen Brunswick Land Bank Authority acquisition of 3223 Norwood Street.
Good evening. You have a presentation? Yeah. Got to show off our new logo. So. Thank you for giving me just a few moments of your time this evening. Commissioner Harris requested I come and present to you all about our most recent acquisition at 3223 Norwood Street. You go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So just as a refresher, the Glen Brunswick Land Bank Authority was created by an agreement between the city and county governments to return vacant, abandoned, and dilapidated properties back to production on the tax roll. Our most recent acquisition, as you can see on the map, 3223 Norwood Street. It's located between 2nd and 3rd Street. It's across from the New Glory Christian Center. Next slide, please. So if y'all remember, this property used to be Dunker Donuts way back in the day. So it has been vacant for, I think, over a decade. And then there was a fire in 2018. And it's been vacant, abandoned, and dilapidated since then. It owes over $20,000 in property taxes between the city, county, and school board, and it was an heirs property. So both of the owners of record had since passed away. So the land bank acquired this property. We consulted with the city planning department, and the building has no historical value, and it's not able to be rehabbed with the state that it's in now. And so last night, the land bank members voted to demolish this property in collaboration with Neighborhood and Community Services, utilizing CDBG funds. And David Bravo is here. If y'all have any questions about that, that's his area. Next slide, please. The property is actually a little bit bigger than 0.4 acres. It's about 0.44, 0.45 acres. And has an assessed value of $100,000. As you can see, the lot extends back pretty significantly from Norwood Street itself. And so I think, and I don't want to speak for Commissioner Harris, but I think the main point in me presenting today is to try and get y'all starting to think about what you or what the public may need, want in that area, because the land bank's job isn't just to return property to the tax roll, it's to do it with intentionally and thoughtfully. And the first preference for property disposition, our priority is local governments. So if the city or the county, any other local government entity had a use for this property, it could be utilized in that way. And then also the land bank is able to put deed restrictions on the properties before they are sold. So say, for example, the city, the DDA had any thing that they thought that the area really needed, we can basically search for developers who would be willing to build what we need. And so that is basically the point of this, is to start getting feedback about what we could do with that property. Next slide, please. Thank you. And then just last thing is that the lot is general commercial. General commercial has many, many permissible uses. There's like 11 pages of uses in the city's code. But to me, the most relevant piece of information is that you cannot do mixed use. So you can't have, kind of what you see on Newcastle, where we have commercial downstairs, residential upstairs. It is not zoned for that. So you could do multifamily residential, or you could do commercial. You could not do both, as the zoning is currently. Next slide, please. And then just very quickly, that's what is to the left or south of this property. It is just 9 small retail spaces. Next slide. And then this is looking north to the right. That building directly next to it is vacant. As far as I can see, it used to be an upholstery and flooring location, but I think it's since closed. And just of note, but the properties on either side are owned by the same person. And then next slide. And that's the church across the street. And that is it. Do y'all have any questions for me regarding?
Questions or comments from the commission?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I know you said what the city or any other governmental entity may like to have there. By chance, do y'all have any ideas or thoughts of what could possibly go there that you all may be thinking, or haven't gotten that far?
Haven't gotten that far yet. Once we got the assessment from the city planning department that it needed to be demolished, I focused on getting that started. It has become, there's a lot of trash. It's pretty unsightly, I think, and the board agreed that it was important to get that cleared and cleaned. And then my hope is to have a kind of maybe a work session or planning session where anyone who's interested will be a part of the conversation. Like I said, I've reached out to the Downtown Development Authority, and even though it is in the city limits, I did also reach out to county planning, just because it is near the county line, and the land bank is a city-county entity. And so that is my, anyone who's interested, either gather feedback or if they can attend a meeting in person to start those conversations.
Thank you.
And so, being the chairperson of the land bank, and having dealt with this property since I've been a commissioner, this was something that fell into the mission and the vision of the city. And so the mission of the land bank is to return these type of properties back to a productive use. And so we have been trying to get this property for a while. And so now we had that opportunity. We executed on that opportunity. And and because the land bank is a tool of the city, we are moving in that facet as it being a tool of the city to enhance the housing department of the city. Not saying that it's going to be housing there. We've not determined that yet, but it was the decision of the entirety of the land bank board was to make sure that this is put on the radar of the DIOS, and for us not to proceed with just a vision that we tossed around the table, but because that vision also has to be meshed with the vision of the entirety of the city of Brunswick, we are thus bringing this opportunity to the DIOS so that the vision can be a comprehensive vision of what goes on that property, so that the inclusiveness of that community can also be envisioned in what goes on that property. And so this is just a demonstration of the value of the land bank to the mission of the entirety of the city. And so Taylor has done an awesome job as our leader on a daily basis over the operations of the land bank. And so we're just happy to be at this opportunity or at this point, because this property has been sitting for years and years and years. And I see Mr. Otis out in the audience, so he can attest to that. Anybody born and raised, I see Miss Polite out there. I can see others out there from the community. And if you've been here and you know that property, you know the condition that it has been in since I was a little girl, before I even considered or even knew I was going to be a commissioner. And so we have that opportunity. We're moving on that opportunity. We are happy. Again, this is a community effort. And so we do want to get community input, because we want to maximize the opportunity that we have for this piece of property.
I want to be opposed to another donut shop.
Same.
Yeah. We had Dunkers, now we got Dunkin'.
Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none. We thank you so much.
Thank you
your
for your hard
update.
work.
Thank you,
Thank
Taylor.
you for everything, Taylor. All right, that we will move on to 2 appointments for the Historic Preservation Board. And I'm not gonna lie, I just read through some of the names, and it is some of the hardest names I've ever seen
I can help
in
you.
my entire life.
Janicock.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, so expiring term of Sarah Janikakis. Would not have gotten that right without Lance. Her term was up on the 30th, or will be up on the 30th. She has reapplied to have herself reappointed to our Historic Preservation Board. She turned in her application. I don't think anyone has any questions or anything. So with that, I would open it for a motion to reappoint Ms. Janikakis.
I offer a motion, Mr. Mayor, that we reappoint Miss
Janikakis.
Janikakis back to the Historic Preservation Board. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. We have an additional person who is rotating off, but I don't see another application. So we will just state here publicly and put out again that there is an additional position to be filled on the Historic Preservation Board. The other committee that we have an expired term to fill, and I hope I'm saying this right, is Yeshua Israel, whose term expires on or they are pulling out of their seat, or they are resigning their seat. And so as of now, we have no names submitted for consideration. So we will just say again here publicly and advertise again that there is one appointment to be filled with the audit committee. The last commission that we have here is the Pilotage Commission to appoint in the space of Greg Bell. But Mr. Bell has put in to be reappointed, and we are thankful for his service. If we don't have any questions from the DIOS, we will open it for a motion to reappoint Mr. Greg Bell.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we appoint Mr. Greg Bell to the Pilotage Commission.
Here no first, do I hear second? Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. We will now move on to items to consider for approval. Approval of June 4th, 2025 work session, public hearings, and regular scheduled meeting minutes. Any changes or addendums? Hearing none, we'll open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the June 4th, 2025 work session, public hearing, and regular scheduled meeting minutes.
Hearing a first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes and the minutes are approved. Consider approval of 4 Glen Brunswick 911 service agreements for external entities, namely the Brunswick Glen Joint Water Sewer Commission as the first. The second, Jekyll Island State Park Authority, College of Coastal Georgia, and Glen County Board of Education. With that, we will turn it over. I don't see a name on here. Oh, Ms. Richardson.
Hello,
There we go.
Kara Richardson, Glen Brunswick 911. I'm back after 6 months of seeing you all. So this is 4 of the 5 external service agreements that we have entered into. The next one just didn't happen to make it here on time, so we'll be seeing you with that one soon. This is $185,000 of revenue for the city towards the overall operational cost. And so that decreases the city and county's percentages. And it has very minimal operational impact. So we recommend renewal of all of these agreements.
Questions or comments?
Can you just kind of give a brief summary of the importance for those who may not quite understand the
Yes, ma'am.
of this?
So the Joint Water Sewer Commission actually has been using our radio system for quite some time. The radio system, the upgrades, and the sewer to the Savannah core is quite expensive. P25 compliant radio systems are just expensive to begin with. So what is stated in our original agreement between the city and county as any external agreement, or external entities that wish to utilize a radio system, they have to have a certain need for it, and it's the overall interest of the public. And in particular, with the Joint Water Sewer Commission, though they don't receive dispatch services during hurricanes and things of that nature, it's good to have that P25 compliant radio comms. So they do not impact us operationally whatsoever, but they do provide revenue as they're on our system, and that goes to the overall maintenance and the agreement with the city of Savannah. Okay, and then the additional services, so we actually dispatch Jekyll Island Fire and EMS, and just the continuity in between the different fire agencies in the county it's very, it's beneficial for everybody in the county. They're actually working towards mutual aid as far as actually it'd be automatic aid for structure fire. So anybody that's the closest available unit would be able to respond to that and negate whatever emergency is happening at that time. So it's beneficial. Obviously, they can hear each other's radio traffic, and it's just in the best interest of public safety. Same for the Board of Education. They have their own dispatcher. They do use our system, but we do provide them Georgia Crime Information Center and updates and things of that nature. So also there's that continuity. They're able to hear, issues that may be close to schools that may prompt them to take action. And then College of Coastal Georgia, same thing. We dispatch them. Same thing.
Additional questions or comments? Hearing none, I guess my question to city managers, are we taking these individually or do we take them as a group? Okay, good deal. So with that, thank you, Mrs. Richardson. With that, we have before us the consider approval of the four Glen Brunswick 911 service agreements for external entities, and we will open it for motion. Collectively. Here in the first, do it here second. Here in the first and a second, all those in here in the first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you. With that, we'll move on to number 8, consider approval of the City of Brunswick Police Department Enterprise Fleet Management Services. Chief Smith.
Good afternoon.
Good
I will be introducing Mr. Chris Whiteside with Enterprise Fleet Management to discuss the transformation of the fleet management program through Enterprise for the Brunswick Police Department. Chris?
Thank you all for having us. I'm Chris Whiteside and this is Alex Dawson. So we have been working with city administration to look at a vehicle replacement plan for the city's police department. So I'm going to let Alex cover a little bit of the presentation and then I'll kind of fill in with some other details.
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and flip to the next slide. So as Chris said, we've been meeting with the chief and the city administration for a few weeks now to discuss the fleet vehicles and how Enterprise Fleet Management's program could make a positive impact specifically on the police department. So part of our presentation today is just to share some of our long-term partners across the state of Georgia. As you can see here, we work with several government and different municipalities when it comes to their fleet vehicles, but we also work with many across the nation as well. And then if you're able to go through. So the philosophy of what Enterprise Fleet Management looks at when it comes to cycling and what the fleet program looks like is when we look at the maintenance, fuel, and depreciation of the vehicles, when is the right time to cycle out of those vehicles? And so as you can see here, what we have put together for the city of Brunswick is when is that right life cycle for you all to get out of these vehicles based off of the 3 largest cost buckets that go into operating and owning a fleet of vehicles. So we did run an analysis on the police vehicles. So taking a look at your fleet into a deep dive here. Do you want? I see the paper. Sorry, my eyesight's a little wonky. Thank you. So just doing like a deep dive into the city's fleet. So 3% of the fleet is over 6 years old, and 20% is over 10 years old. And so if you were to cycle out of your vehicles, it would take you close to 11.4 years if you were to keep going on that same cycle rotation. And so your annual cost of maintenance we have right now is at $134,000. So that's $190 per month per vehicle. And so with that, you have an aging fleet with increased fuel and maintenance costs as well, and also heightened safety risks by staying in these vehicles longer than you should. So part of our proposal today that we've put in place is what does that look like if we were to implement a potential program for the city of Brunswick? So on the next slide is the objectives of our proposal that we have brought forward for you tonight. So we were looking at reducing your life cycle from 11.4 to 5 years. This will free up an extra $34,000 in capital by selling 11 vehicles in year 1. We also looked at projecting a 58% reduction in your maintenance costs by cycling out of these vehicles sooner. And with that comes lower fuel costs as well, because we're rotating out of these vehicles sooner rather than holding on to them longer. And then with that, a big thing that we see a lot in our cities and municipalities is the increase in safety, because newer vehicles are more reliable, there's more safety features, and we're able to help you regulate that as vehicles begin to newer. They're not made the same way. So having those safety regulations, we're able to help with that as well. And then overall, we ran the analysis to implement this program over a cost breakdown in the next 10 years. We were looking at potential savings of over $800,000. Perfect. And I'm going to turn it over to Chris. He's going to walk through the proposal and how the structure works on the funding aspect of it.
Thank you, Alex. So our recommendation is to move towards an equity lease model. So equity lease is very similar to a traditional finance. So if you look at the example, a traditional finance, if you take a $48,000 pickup truck as shown, a regular finance, that vehicle will be paid down to zero over a 5-year period. What we're recommending is paying that vehicle down to a residual amount of about 10% of the value. So instead of paying that vehicle down to zero, you pay it down to 10% of the value. The benefit is it's going to give you a lower monthly and annual cost, which is going to in turn allow the city to replace vehicles a little bit sooner, move towards a little bit healthier rotation, and reduce maintenance, fuel cost, some of those other factors. So I did show on this slide a comparison between an equity lease and a dealership style lease. So a lot of people hear that term lease and think about, if you go to a dealership and you lease a car, there's going to be typically some sort of a down payment, then there's going to be a monthly lease cost. And at the end of the lease term, you turn the vehicle in. When you turn the vehicle in, there's typically mileage penalties, wear and tear, all those different factors that come into play. With our equity lease, that is not a factor. So the example shows $48,000 pickup truck, monthly cost is around $946. That vehicle is paid down to 10% of the value, so paid down to $48,000. At term, it's worth about $20,000 if we were to sell that vehicle. So you would get the difference between the sale price and the residual if it were sold. So you do still have ownership in the vehicle. If it were to come back with higher miles or damage or any of those situations, it may not sell for $20,000. It might sell for $15,000 or $18,000. So you would still have equity there. Just gives you kind of a little lower monthly and annual cash flow, which allows you to cycle vehicles sooner. And it's what the majority of our government partners are doing. So very similar to a finance. If you go to the next slide, the next slide shows an example of, so a little bit more applicable, a police interceptor SUV. So again, this is walking through the equity lease. It's a $46,000 vehicle. If you were to add $15,000 in equipment, the total would come to around $61,000. The monthly lease cost is around $1,200 in this example. The vehicle is paid down to $6,000. At the end of the 5-year term, it's worth about $14,000. So if we were to sell that vehicle on your behalf, you would get $7,431 back. Ultimately, what a lot of cities do that partner with Enterprise, and what our recommendation is to move towards about a 5-year rotation on your police vehicles. So the ultimate goal would be to take those proceeds and use them to offset future lease cost or future vehicle cost. You do have a couple of options at term. So you have the ability to pay the vehicle. So pay that residual book value, pay the $6,000 and take ownership of the vehicle or take title. You have the ability to continue to pay your lease payment until it's paid to zero. Or you have the ability, which is our recommendation, to have Enterprise sell that vehicle, take the proceeds and apply it towards a replacement. So you've got a lot of flexibility there. We kind of use that term as a decision point on what makes the most sense. So if you go to the next slide, it again just highlights a couple of those benefits of the equity lease. Again, you build equity over time, so you're going to continue to build up equity and value in those vehicles. There are no mileage penalties. There are no wear and tear penalties. We do have the option to provide maintenance services, fuel services, telematic services for those vehicles if interested. There are no penalties for early turn in. So if you did need to turn a vehicle in early, or if you needed to extend a vehicle, there's no penalties associated with any of that. And again, the equity is owned by the city. That's the big thing with our lease. You do own all the value that's in those vehicles. So the next slide shows a quick snapshot of the 11 vehicles that we recommended replacing. So the 11 vehicles targeted are all over 8 years old or over 80,000 miles. We looked at age, we looked at mileage, we looked at value and the operating cost to help determine which of those vehicles we recommended for replacement. Of those 11 vehicles, we'd expect them to sell for around $33,800. So you'd have about $33,800 that you could put towards replacement vehicles. Another thing to keep in mind, while 80,000 miles doesn't sound like that many miles for a personal vehicle, in a law enforcement setting, typically we see idle time. So an hour of idle time is equivalent to about 30 miles. So, if you're idling a couple hours a day on a police shift, that 80,000 could very easily be about 150,000 engine hours. So they are driven in a harsh condition. So we do recommend cycling them around that time period. And the next page shows what our recommendation is. So again, those are the 11 vehicles we would recommend replacing. This is what our plan ultimately looked like. So of those 11 vehicles, there was a sedan, a pickup truck, a couple SUVs for various departments or various divisions of the police department. There was a K9 vehicle and a few vehicles in the administration. What you'll see is over on the right-hand side, you can kind of see the breakdown of what this total comes to. So the total lease cost would be around $146,400 for 11 vehicles. For Enterprise to manage and maintenance on these vehicles would be $792. You can see the total equity from owned vehicles. So that's the proceeds from the sale of the 11 vehicles, the minus 33,000. So your net cost in the first year would be around $113,392 with Enterprise. And then from there, year 2 through 5 would be $146,000. Couple things to keep in mind. On average, the city has been spending around $227,000 per year on vehicle purchases. They've been averaging about 5.6 vehicles. And that number does not include equipment. So if you add equipment to that number, you're probably closer to about $300,000 in vehicle expenses per year. Our lease structure does include the equipment. We would project with resale values and things like that to continue to drive your costs down and create a savings over a 10-year period. And then lastly, if you flip to the last slide, so Enterprise, how do government entities partner with Enterprise is typically a question that comes up. So the city is a member of Sourcewell, which is a national purchasing cooperative. They put out a national RFP for fleet management, and Enterprise is a preferred provider. So that's what the majority of the entities in Georgia have used to partner with Enterprise. And the city is able to take advantage of that and take advantage of the pricing associated with that. And I'm happy to answer any questions, take any feedback or questions y'all have.
Good deal. Questions or comments from the commission?
I guess really this question is for our city manager. Have we looked at possibly utilizing Enterprise for our administration vehicles?
For what now?
Vehicles for administration?
No, we
Departments.
did not add any vehicles other than the police department. We decided to start there. And the police department vehicles get utilized a lot more than the other vehicles, so they lose their value quicker. So we haven't added, we will evaluate other vehicles in our fleet and possibly add those at a later time.
Thank you.
So, Chris.
Yes, ma'am.
It is good to see you in person.
Yes, ma'am. You too.
And so I appreciate your taking the questions that we had
Absolutely.
and concerns we had out of the Finance Committee
Yes, ma'am.
and thoroughly addressing those questions that we had, demonstrating the value regarding the questions that we did have come out of the Finance Department. Because one thing I did not get at the prior presentation was the added value of getting completed vehicles already, not having to expound additional costs to get those vehicles where they needed to be with the equipment and all of that stuff. So that's something that I did not take out of the prior presentation. And so I just say thank you because I had the questions. You answered those questions. The concerns I had with the equity and the residual value, the cost for the residual value, the potential liability dealing with the residual value. And so just thank you.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
you took that and you knocked it.
Thank you.
You did more than a triple double. You did a triple.
Well, no, thank you for the feedback. We appreciate it.
I have a couple questions. Can you pull the slide deck back up, please? And go to the vehicle breakdown. And this could be a combination question for you and also Chief. I was just curious on the selection of the vehicle. I understand that we took the oldest vehicles and we're projecting to replace them. I was just curious and want a little more detail about why we chose for those roles. And then I want you to talk a little bit about, you mentioned that the price includes the equipment. I want to make sure that Chief is comfortable with the equipment package that you're providing, because obviously we want to make sure that our officers get the best possible equipment we can provide. So I think it's the next
Yeah, it should be the next one.
Yeah.
Yep.
There we go. Yep.
Here's a clearer picture. Yeah.
And so for the Toyota Camry, it would be possibly it may not exactly be a Camry, but something similar will be used for an undercover vehicle. So that is why
Oh,
we
I
chose
see.
that
Okay.
particular
Okay,
vehicle.
that helps.
The crew cab F-150, of course, that's for CID, for the different things they bring in for evidence, for large items, and be able to compartmentalize those things in their vehicle, to have room, provide for room. And patrol, the police interceptors, of course, that's your basic patrol vehicle. Support services, that vehicle will be used for the community service officer. And that will be a vehicle that they can put all of their equipment in it as well, their tents, their tables, and whatever they need to do community engagement. And of course, the K9 Tahoe was chosen for the space, as well as for administration, which would be for the chief and assistant chief, because they are the agency heads. And so if you want to recruit officers, you have to look like your department and the people that you intend to recruit. So,
Awesome. Thank you.
thank you.
And then if you could just address the equipment question real quick, and then,
Yes.
or both of you or whoever.
As far as the equipment, we probably would spend about $15,000 after, like Chris said, after we purchase a vehicle, marking the vehicle and putting the radios and the sirens and the lights on a vehicle. And so that's really good that it comes already equipped. They handle that. We pick the provider or the vendor, and then they handle all of the servicing for us.
Okay, perfect, perfect. And then the last question, sorry, is that total maintenance cost, you have $792. Is that annual for each vehicle, or is that total for all of the new 11 vehicles? Or
That's total for, that's the annual cost for the new vehicles to be on our maintenance management program, which allows us to manage the maintenance, make sure the proper work is done, make sure the correct pricing is paid, make sure everything's tracked and logged through our website. So it gives you a lot of visibility into repair information.
Okay, but we would still be responsible for the actual repairs.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
And going to whatever provider we want to do those repairs and what have you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Chris, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
What, was there an opportunity for the maintenance agreement to be extended through you all?
Yes. So if I understand your question correctly, we can, the maintenance program, we have the ability to put it on any vehicle. So we have it on your new vehicles that are leased. There is an option to put that on existing vehicles as well, if you wanted us to help manage and track that. Down the road, that may be something that makes sense to kind of get a good eye on what y'all are spending on maintenance and get a better understanding there. But we do have vendors that are set up in the community that you can use, or you do still have the ability to use, anyone that y'all have used currently. So you got a lot of flexibility around the program.
But it's not, again, just for clarification, it's not the physical maintenance, it's the tracking and okay, car number 6 is due for an oil change. You get a little email, go drop it off, get the oil change done.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Gotcha. Thank you.
On the total maintenance cost?
Hold on 1 second. We always got to run the questions through the clerk here, and then happy to ask them afterwards. Any other questions from the DIOS? Hearing none, we'll open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the City of Brunswick Police Department Enterprise Fleet Management System Agreement.
Hearing a first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing a first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us.
Y'all. Thank you.
We'll now move on to number 9, consider approval of February, March, and April 2025 financial reports. Director Perry.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Financial report as of April 30th, 2025. General fund, April 30th, 2025, on the cash basis. Our revenues that we brought in for April, 1,018,270. Expenditures was 2,775,856. Year to date, we're under 928,606. And I think, as I explained in the Finance Committee, we had our insurance that we take in that month, and most of our higher expenses came in the month of April, hence the reason for that high expenditure for that month. Cash ledger balance for 4/30 is 5,502,458. Our prime South account is holding at 496,634.56. Our Georgia Fund 1 account is $5,823.77. Now, for our sales tax for the month of April, we brought in 900,867. Year to date, we're at 8,400,901. Last year this term, we were 834,859, and compared to last year, we're up 3.94% as far as bringing in sales tax. Okay. Next page will be our SPLOS 6. And since we've already done the SPLOS 6 presentation, technically, only thing that changes SPLOS 6 is interest. And that's all. Other than that, there's no change. Okay. All right. Next page will be SPLOS 22. Now, SPLOS 22, from last Finance Committee meeting to now, we've made some updates. And total distributions received is 15,241,335.96. Total, including interest earned, grant reimbursement, transfer in, DOT, is $16,664,610.51. Total expended for that month was $7,455,383. Our total cash ledger for 4/30 is $9,311,189.76. Next page. Next page, we have the Norwood Street Common Fund. Norwood Street Common Fund, year to date since inception, is $559,403. Total expenditures, $177,308. A net cash ledger balance is $382,095. Roosevelt Harris Multipurpose Center. For that center, total inflows for that month was $331,185. And total expenditures year to date is $323,784, with a net of $7,400. Our cash ledger balance for that account is $139,430. Now, in our ARPA fund, total funds received, of course, as of 4/30, and which we had claimed, is $10,003,339. Total funds dispersed as of April 30th is $4,540,930, and our total cash ledger balance is $5,592,938. Okay. And sanitation fund. Now, for our sanitation fund, our sanitation billing, we brought in for the month of April $1,242,736. To include the franchise fees and our interest earned, our total revenue we brought in is $1,353,084. Our total expenses for that month is $1,821,995 for operating loss of that month of $468,911. Our total ledger balance for that month is $1,040,012. Now, for our waste disposal and our trash pickup, legal refuse cleanup, and street sweeping, our year to date is $1,425,510. I know Commissioner Sabi asked a question about whether or not we include the legal pickup. It's actually included into our trash pickup invoice. When I went back and looked at invoices, and what I would do probably in the future is I'll break out what they put in our invoice just to show the difference. But it is included into our major invoice, which will be that $144,757.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Our stormwater utility fund. For stormwater utility fees, we brought in total inflows of $1,043,667. For our total outflows is $1,107,410, with a net balance of negative $63,744. With our total ledger balance for that account is $528,610. Now, for the R. Lawrence Center, the R. Lawrence Center, for the current month transactions for R. Lawrence Center is $10,255.85. Between our contractual expenses, cable, telephone, everything else, total transactions for the month is $13,011.66. Our year-to-date transactions are $160,948.51 compared to a budgeted amount of $189,933. And that concludes the reading of the finance report.
Questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, I have a couple questions. Mr. Perry,
Yes, ma'am.
you went over April, so I'ma skip over 2 because I didn't look that far in April because I did, but if you look at my first set of questions, if you look at, and it may be, and you could explain to me, it's the March 31st ARPA funds.
March, I
Uh-huh.
don't have
The one,
March.
you don't have March?
Yeah, it's about
Okay,
April.
but I think I just calculated over here as well. You don't have March, so. The difference between the total funds received as of April the 30th, 2025, and the amount that's on your cash ledger balance is $5,462 and, I'm sorry, $5,462,409. And the difference between that number and the total funds dispersed, I'm gonna have to play catch up because I did March on it. I didn't look over here April. Wait a minute. There is a difference, the bottom line is. So my question is it because of, can you explain the difference? Why we have those differences? The difference available, even when you're looking at your April differences, you have $5,462 and $409. When you take that amount and subtract it from the total funds received, there's $130,529 difference. Can you tell me why we have some differences when you take that number and subtract it from the bottom number?
The only answer I can give you is within that 30-day period, I'm sure there were some transactions that was made that needed to be adjusted. I can't give you the exact reason. I mean, I can give you the exact reason, just some things that just get caught up. But if you want to get exact, just give me a call tomorrow or Friday. Well, we're off tomorrow.
The ARPA funds, according to this, I'm making sure I'm looking at this correctly. All the ARPA funds that we have been allocated out. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
Or designated to be
Designated. Well, it's been already designated out, but I'm sure the expenses that we would incur after the December after the December when we claimed it all would have happened within the last 2 to 3, 4 months. I'm sure there's been some expenses that was been claimed that month. I do know that much. As a matter of fact, off the top of my head, I do remember signing off on a couple of opera invoices over the last couple of months.
Okay.
So I can at least stand on that.
So for the April's Splash 6 account, and looking at February the 28th, Splash 6, was the April is the one where the outside accountant auditor had consolidate, because I'm noticing in February the 28th, it said we had a negative $26,415 of storm drain but now it's zero. For Highway 17, we had $18,362, but now it's one. Back in February, it says we had $69,693 of sitting Lanier Park improvements, but it's down to $54,702. Okay, so have we had some transactions within those categories for us, our splosh funds?
Within the last 30 days since we get this report, we haven't had any transactions plus 6.
So can you tell me why, have we had any transactions from
Outside of interest being accrued,
February?
the
Right.
only transaction we have since we gave this last report was interest, accrual of interest. That's it. Anything else outside of that, there shouldn't have been any change. This report will stand unless this interest change. And this report is probably ain't gonna change anyway unless I put some more interest in here, which I will accrue interest next month and you'll probably see interest change. But other than that, this report is pretty much what it is.
Okay.
Commissioner,
Yes.
when we presented the reconciliation of the SPLOST 6, we did cover balances, that 26,000 that was over in the storm drainage. We did cover those balances to zero out any accounts that were completed and left the funding that was in the budget for the 2 accounts that we asked for the commission to remain open. So everything else was cleared based on that reconciliation. And that left the amounts that we have for those 2 budgets for the Sidney Lanier Park and the, what was the wayfinding
Wayfinding.
funds.
Okay, inside the column, and I'm gonna let it go, but inside the column, you had a negative. Let's say we have a -5, and then you had a +4 in one account. Therefore, the ending balance should have been $1. Okay, we just using hypothetical numbers. So regardless, if we zero out, move money, that ending balance of $1, which is the positive, still should be the same, because you all said we always had $153,830 available balance left. But now we're showing that we have $146,894, which is a difference of $6,936, decrease from February. So is it
Well,
from
the February report probably we gave if I'm mistaken, didn't we give the reconciliation report in March? I believe, no, we gave you a reconciliation report within the month of April. So February forget February, because we got everything reconciled and that was probably part of a reconciliation. The reconcile is to clear up the balances. So by the time we gave out a report, this is the final. So February, just forget February.
Okay, so 146 is the final.
146,894.
It's the final, and then
It's
there's
final.
should be $1,009 of
Yes,
interest supposed
if
to be
it
added.
changed, you will know by the next meeting, but this number has stayed the same since the reconciliation report we gave.
Okay, so looking at, if you go over here where you report in April, that was March, it says April the 30th. Basically no change. That was March, now we're in April. So there was no change. That's exactly, do we have any interest from March to April?
If there was interest that was accrued, it probably wasn't recognized in that period, but we'll recognize interest as it comes. Interest for this account, just to be honest with you, I'm only accruing no more than about $7, $8 of interest per month. So if I miss $10 to $12 per month on interest, if I didn't get recognized that period, the $10, $12 will be next month. So if you see $10 added next month's report, it's the reason why. But other than that, SPLOST 6 only average accrual interest no more than about $6 to $7 a month.
Okay.
And just keep your mind on that right there.
That's good to know. Okay, let's move over to Splash 22. Oh, what are some, and this may be for City Manager McDuffie, we have Sidney Lanier Park improvements in Splash 6, but it's not, we don't have any in, it's not a line item for Splash 22. What are some of the projects are we going to do in Sidney Lanier? What's outlined and what is the status on it?
Okay, your question was, what have we done with Sidney Lanier
Or
Park?
what are the plans to
What
do?
is left?
Yes.
Well, what is left, we have some dock improvements and dock repairs that need to be done at the park. Because basically the money that was spent was to, you know, put in the sidewalks, the areas that we put in parking, some other landscaping, the restroom that we put in Sidney Lanier Park. But now the only thing we have that we're working on is the dock repairs.
The dock repairs, okay.
Mhm.
And we already discussed about the signage. Okay, looking over here at Splash 22 for April the 30th. Okay. Our total receipt, the difference between cash and the total inception of receipts is $7,353,420.75. But we have expended, according to the column that you have here, $7,453,383, which is $101,962.25 more. And more than what's?
That difference of 101,000 is probably going to be what we have, what we call a due from account. Over the last several months, as I kept reconciling the SPLOST account, there's some money that was owed to general fund that was going to SPLOST. So as I reconciled this account, or had one of my staff reconcile the account, you'll see that number dwindle. Last month, the number was a little bit high. From the finance committee meeting, I went back and actually literally I started last July just to see exactly what's been going on with SPLOST even before I got here. Yes, there were some changes that should have been made that wasn't made in the past. So what I'm doing now is starting from last fiscal and working my way up just to narrow that number down. So next month, you might even set a number even less. Now, I do want to say that you will probably see a $50,000 or $40,000 maybe variance, because sometimes we have grant reimbursements that will be coming in. So that cash ledger will be off compared to the book value, which is the actual what Prime South is reporting. And in the future, what I want to do is probably have it where I can show actual cash ledger versus what the bank statements say, so you can see the outstanding in the middle.
And
So
it-
that's the goal in the future.
Well, I was going to say, and it could just be that there was a bill that was paid and shown on the ledger for expenses, but was not, the check hadn't cleared, so it didn't take it out of cash. So a lot of times when those balances are different, it's because of transactions where we pulled the ledger for expenditures from the general ledger of what's been paid, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that check is basically come and cleared.
Thank you, Mr. Perry.
Yes, ma'am. That concludes the reading of the report.
Any additional questions or comments from the commission? Seeing none, we will open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion that we approve the financial statements as presented.
Hearing the first, do I hear a second? Hearing the first and a second, all those in favor show by the sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, with that, the motion passes. We will now move on to number 10, consider approval of resolution 2025-08, adoption of fiscal year 2025/2026 budget. City Manager McDuffie.
Good evening. And thank you all for the opportunity to present the 2026 budget for approval. We have gone through our required budget process where the budget was presented at the first meeting in May. We were given a tentative approval of the budget at the second meeting in May. We had our public hearing for the budget on the first meeting in June, And now we are hopefully at the conclusion of the budget process, requesting approval of the budget at this time. The budget, there have been some recommended changes. I want to thank the commission for their efforts and their work that they did to review the budget and provide some great recommendations and directives to meet some of the additional needs for the city through that process. The budget was proposed at $23,918,344. As presented with the recommended changes, the budget is increased by $95,000, requested at $24,016,344. This does include a couple of changes on our revenue. We increased our municipal court fines, $40,000, and our interest income estimate for revenues by $55,000. Next slide. The changes that were recommended for the expenditures included in addition to the commission budget of $8,000, in addition to the finance office budget to provide additional accountants position. We will have requested one position, but we are adding another staff accountant position. And we are also adding some funds for outsourcing for financial assistance so that we can get our finances completely caught up. The other items that were adjusted was we were asking for adding funds to address our youth violence, which is an issue that was presented with the original budget as a concern. And I appreciate the commission requesting to address that issue. We're also adding funding for police crowd control, animal control, and some additional funds for the recreation maintenance of the splash pad in the fields. There were adjustments made to the expenditures also to accommodate or balance these adjustments. There was a reduction to the police department vehicles, but we did leave the money in for the enterprise leasing management contract, and we reduced just amount for our group health. We left $1 million in for group health. We reduced the transfer for the senior center, and that was based on the county approving their funding of the senior center. So that reduced the city's funding of that line item. We also increased our funds in electricity and increased our funds in our contingency, both by $30,000. Again, the recommended changes netted, there was a $298,000 adjustment, but it only netted a $95,000 increase to the bottom line of the budget. I, at this time, will go through the other funds of the budget that will be approved, including the state and local confiscated funds, which normally in that fund, we just carry over the funds from the current fiscal year. Whatever's left in the fund, we carry it over to the next fiscal year. Federal confiscated funds, well, the state and local confiscated funds was $60,000. The federal confiscated funds was $12,000. The opioid settlement fund has $73,000. The E911 fund, which funds the E911 for the county, the city's portion of that, we're budgeting $600,000. The CDBG Neighborhood Administration, $270,528. The DOT Grant Fund is $500,000. The CHIP Grant Fund, which we were awarded a CHIP grant of $500,000, so that will be budgeted in the CHIP fund for home improvements. The CDBG Disaster Recovery Grant, carryover funds of $184,000. The ARPA funds, a carryover of $800,000. The Roosevelt Harris Center, their budget is $473,547,000. The CDBG Entitlement Fund, that's $384,717,000. The Housing Redevelopment Fund, $619,318,000. The Hotel Motel Fund is budgeted at $55,000. The City Dock Fund, we put extra money into the City Dock Fund. There's $400,000 in that fund. Those funds will be used for dock repairs, and most of that money will come from the cruise line, where they will be making those repairs, but they send that fund through our funds. The SPLOST 6 has the $147,900 that's carried over. The SPLOST 22, we have $8,520,000, and that was outlined in our highlights for what is budgeted for SPLOST 22. That's not all the money that we have, but money coming in and money that's carried over. The grant funds that we have from the Office of Planning and Budget, we have approximately $1.2 million that's carried over from that fund. The Norwich Common Fund has $380,000 that will be carried over. The Stormwater Utility Fund will be budgeted at $1.2 million. The Sanitation Fund is budgeted at $2,047,608,000. The Transit Fund is estimated at $1.2 million. And the total of the other funds outside of the general fund is $19,731,848,000. Adding that to our general fund of $24,016,344,000 gives us a total budget for FY '26 of $43,748,192,000. That's an increase of 8.8% over last year. Most of that increase is attributable to the SPLOST fund being added, the SPLOST 22 fund that went up by $7 million. There were no changes made to the taxes budgeted for this year. I did want to say that the authorized personnel, there was a reconciliation provided of that. Our authorized personnel would be budgeted, 249 full-time positions, 11 part-time positions, 236 actual budgeted positions. We are adding or requesting addition of 4 positions, the co-responder for the police department, the 2 staff accountants, and the 1 city planner. The 3% COLA for all employees effective January 1st. The budget, of course, does include funding for a housing program, for night court operations, for the vehicle fleet management program, and the change to recycling to a subscription-based program. Additional highlights include $3,778, which is included in the commission budget for the 6% COLA for the mayor and commissioners effective January 1st. That was advertised as required by state law. In addition, there's $323,000 for vehicle purchases is in various departments. Those vehicles include a carpool vehicle in the general administration, the police department lease program vehicles, and 3 trucks for the public works department. That concludes the information presented. I will answer any questions.
Thank you and staff and commission for all of your hard work through this process. I just want to say that before we get into questions, because I know we've had a lot of meetings, you've had a lot of meetings on it. Department heads have done an amazing job getting us here. So we just want to thank all of the staff because we know it's a complete body of work for the city. So thank everyone that has worked on it. So questions or comments?
Yeah, I have just one quick question, Mr. Mayor, and again, I echo your sentiment. Thanks to you, staff, and all the department heads. It was a big lift, and we appreciate all your work. On the recommended changes after our last meeting and discussion with everybody, I'm looking on that summary chart, Ms. McDuffie, under additional funding for finance. So I know that we decided to add that second position for the finance team, but I see 55,000 in additional funds, but when you carry that over to the total funds line, it only says 50,000.
Probably a typo.
Okay.
And that's not a part of the official
Okay, I just wanted to make
documents.
sure
Yeah.
that the summary, if the summary's
it's
wrong,
not a
good to go,
part of
as
the
long as it's
official-
calculated correctly.
Yeah.
Perfect, thank
And
you.
actually, I made that last minute change and I was just trying to show the total number of funds in those, but that's what it was.
Perfect,
Thank you.
Mhm.
Questions, quick.
Oh, go ahead.
A quick question with the $10,000 for animal control. What does that look like? Like, what is?
We are, as you know, the discussion with the commission, encouraging more, I guess, dollars to be put toward animal control. We are putting together an action plan, which will include some of the initiatives that the mayor and commission had directed, such as buying leashes and having those given out. Also possibly, providing chips for animals and registration for animals in the community. And then we'll be working with, the county on, furthering that plan.
I have a just a quick observation. When I look at the summary of other funds and I look at the hotel motel fund, and it's showing revenue of 55,000, projected revenue of 55,000, with the expenditures of 55,000. I'm just making this statement because I want it to be made. Okay, so being a tourist destination, this projected revenue must change. This projected revenue must change.
Needs more help.
Let me support that. It's a disservice to our magnificent city that the people are not afforded the opportunity to fully experience the city of Brunswick. There should be that opportunity through temporary overnight lodging, not Airbnb lodging, but hotel motel lodging for that downtown area, as well as the greater city limits. And so I say that, I stand on that, I support that we need some more hotels
We do.
and motels in downtown, as well as throughout the entirety of the city of Brunswick, because we are a tourist destination, just like St. Simons and Jekyll Island are. And so we draw people here to downtown, but we send them back to Jekyll and to St. Simons to stay there, and for those bed taxes, fees, and all that other stuff to go into another coffer instead of coming into ours. That's my box.
I agree wholeheartedly. Thank you.
One question. I think at the last commissioner meeting, Ms. McDuffie, you mentioned that we get a refund on insurance premiums. Am I correct? Or did I, as a revenue? No? Okay. If it-
No, what you were saying was that, the insurance premium tax,
Okay, insurance premium.
yes.
Okay,
That's-
explain that to me.
That's paid through the insurers in the community. I would have to look it up specifically, but that money comes to every municipality, every county government gets part of the tax from insurance premiums throughout the state.
Okay,
And
so
we
it-
get a part of the share throughout the state. So it's
Gotcha.
allocated, based on.
And it comes from the state? I
Yes.
guess, okay. That was the question. All right. Mayor Pro Tem asked about the animal control. I noticed you put the increased electricity account. What is the fixed amount we pay average cost of our fixed utility?
Well, this particular electricity account is the one for the streetlights.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
And I guess Georgia Power has gone up?
yes,
Okay.
it's pretty high.
All right. But typically, what's our, for our buildings, facilities and all, what's the average cost, fixed cost for,
For electricity,
mhm.
I hate to venture a guess, but I would think that based on probably about 100,000. But I can run a report that shows the electricity bills.
We don't pay for water, do we?
Yes.
How much is that about?
Now the water is a lot less, but, I would say probably, and again, now the electricity, when I say for the buildings, maybe 150,000.
Okay.
Maybe. The water may be about $80,000.
Okay. No, being a newbie, I thought that maybe that was gifted to us from the,
I wish.
okay. So really, per month, we're looking at $230,000.
Yeah.
Utilities for all our facilities.
I'll run that report and give
Okay.
you a definite.
All right, and so looking at, and I'm going back to this, and I'm making sure, now, the ARPA funds, we are expecting $800,000 to come in, or you
No,
saying that's
it's just a carryover.
the
All
carryover?
of- Yes, all of the funds, most of those funds are just if whatever money we have. And in that ARPA fund, we have the interest that hasn't been allocated. So that's pretty much the amount that's being rolled over.
Okay, so basically we have almost 2 million, no. Anyway, I'm looking at these now, I forget it, these numbers, but $800,000 coming from this account that's reported on the finance statement. $800,000 is rolling over from that.
Yeah, because all the rest of it has been allocated.
Because he has 10 million here. And I thought it was all allocated already.
And it probably should be expended, but yeah, the only thing that's left to allocate is the 800,000.
Which is basically from interest. Okay. All right. Coming over here to your highlights, budget highlights. You mentioned, you said authorized personnel, 249 full-time, 11 part-time. You have budgeted 236. But on the back page, it says subtotal 249, 11 part-time. And then you have a total of 260.
That's just total. That's not the budgeted. That's just the
This
249 plus the
shows-
11.
Because it says proposed 26. So this on the back, even though you have proposed, that's not part of the budget, but you're only going to, we are only going to have 13, we are authorized 13, so we're only budgeting 13 less and no part-time.
Well, we are budgeting the part-time. I just put the full-time as it said, 236 full-time. I was just indicating how many full-time positions we were budgeting. And we are budgeting.
So we're going to have 236 full-time and 11 part-time budget.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm good. Okay.
And I'll make that clearer because, yeah, it does kind of look like I didn't budget the part-time, but I did.
A couple questions for me really quickly. Number one, what is the fee that is incurred when those boats dock? I've never.
It's a fee based on the size of the boat. It's per foot. I want to say it's $5 per foot or something like that, based on the days that they dock.
And this is just my pure ignorance. Is that allocated by Georgia Ports Authority or by us?
No, I think it's the city.
And
It's
so
our
we-
dock, so we can, but
So
that's,
we control
yes,
that amount. Okay.
yes.
I would like us to take a look at that amount and ensure it
Sure.
matches with what we are. The second one is, can you explain to me just a little bit? You said their fees to fix the docks come from them but run through us?
Well, we are going to kind of manage the dock repairs. So it would be the dock fund. We would make repairs and then they would pay for them. They may pay for them directly, but we were just anticipating, normally how things work is that we pay and they reimburse, but I mean, they may pay the invoice directly.
Okay.
But
And-
those are some repairs that have to be made to the dock. And the cruise company, actually, they damaged the dock. So they will take care of, and we've sat down and spoke with them about that.
And this is the same as it pertains to shrimp boats as well?
No, I mean, actually, this is Mary Ross Park where we have dock control, and we normally don't have a lot of shrimp boats that dock there.
Okay. I've seen one, just for the record. And so the reason I'm leery of it is because it's city property. And if something were to happen, there's no agreement and we are the one that would be sued. So I just would assume that any boat over there has some kind of agreement with us. So if that's something we need to create, I just wanted to know what that was. Inside of that, we do have being that we've taken back over kind of ownership of I don't have anything else other to call it than the Marside property. But the Marside property, there is a dock back there that we own that is, and what I would say is serious disrepair. And so to the tune that we are fixing docks we own, I would want that to be added to our list of docks that we own that we need to take a look at.
Yeah, that one, I did check with Garrow. We have some temporary fixes that have been made because they needed them just so they could continue operation. But there are some ones that are going to be made that'll be full maintenance and putting it back to where it should be because it was damaged during the storm.
Okay.
But I think there was a delay of that permanent work being done for some reasons. And so they did do some temporary fixes until that could be done.
Okay. Brings me to another quick question. I know because we've taken back over properties, are we setting aside some dollars as it pertains to property management of properties that we now own?
We did increase some of our maintenance costs for property to take care of that. Yes.
Okay. The last two questions I have is I'm always just ensuring that since we are carrying the amount of money that we are watching the interest rates and all of our accounts across our banking partners as well as Georgia Fund One. I just want to remind us to do that. And I would, as I've always said, like for us to take if it's a year to year, if it's every 2 years, to look at who holds our money, who would be the best option, to at least just look at options throughout our community for that. Not that anybody's doing a bad job. I just think it's best to continue to look. And the last thing I want to say, first off, I want to start out by saying thank you to staff and others who have worked diligently. Thank you to this commission. I know there was a ton of calls made from you all to our counterparts over in the county, and we are happy to see them working with us on a couple of different things inside of the city limits. So we just want to take a moment and just say thank you for their partnership. We are both servicing the same community, and we know that we work together on some of these things. So I'm glad that we see some partnership in those spaces. I know we have changed our dollar amount based on the county match with the Harris Center. I know they are in the space of deciding whether they will match our dollar amount when it comes to transportation, or trying to figure out what dollar amount they may be comfortable with. Will our investment change based on their matching funds, or does our investment stay stagnant in the space of transportation?
Well, for this particular year, year one, if they don't fund, we will make some adjustments to expenses and try and keep it within the amount that we have. The city does have funds that were kind of already put in the transit fund to support the transit. So in essence, we have money budgeted just in case. But we would have to make some adjustments.
And so I just want to make sure that, to the tune that we get that investment from the county, if it doesn't come in, we're ensuring that we have a budget that funds us taking the step we need to take in transportation.
Yes, we do.
Okay, we would love for them to come with us, but if not, I just want to make sure we have it in a place where we can get it done. Again, thank you for all your work. Thank you for staff and everybody.
Thank you. I'd just like to,
I do have two questions. One, I just want to make sure, in creating this budget, were departments' expenditures reduced, were their budget amount request was reduced, or did they have to reduce their,
well, in some areas, there were reductions. In some areas, there were increases. I mean, it's based on, projected needs. And also, because of the salaries increasing, we always have to be mindful in order to balance the budget. If the salaries increase and the revenues don't increase proportionately, then we have to adjust it through their expenditures. And we did review expenditures, and there were some decreases.
now, when you say salaries increase,
I mean, okay, so we budgeted last year's salaries and budgeted for the 3% to be done in December as it was. So for this year, that 3% had to be budgeted for the full year. So the 3% from last year that we got. So this year, that increased all our salaries. So going forward, that had to be accommodated for the full year, in addition to if we get an increase this year.
okay, I see. Okay. And that's all. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to say thank you all for the work that you all put in, the meetings, as the mayor said, the responsiveness. I hope the community can see how much the commission and the city is responding to the needs of the community. There's a lot of things that we need to accomplish, but as you said, Mayor, the county has, stepped up, and I know a lot of that, most of that was from you all's, requesting and talking with them, and as well as all of the things that we have going forward, a housing program, the transit. These things are so impactful to this community. I just wanted to say it out loud to the public that the budget, is for improvements and quality of life in the city of Brunswick. And there's a lot that was put into it. The commission was responsive to, all of those MPA meetings. I hope that people know that, there's a lot of things that were responsive to requests that were made during those meetings. And you all have supported and provided and directed us and helped to make this budget just a really good impact for the city. So thank you.
Thank you. With that, we will open it for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve Resolution 25-08, the adoption of the fiscal year 25-26 budget for the city of Brunswick.
Hearing the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing the first and the second, all those in favor show by sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. And with that, the motion passes. No executive no executive session, I don't think. With that, we will open it for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Hearing the first, do I hear a second? Hearing the first and the second, all those in favor show by sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, we are adjourned.